and contemporary practices in the broad interdisciplinary field of culture and art. In doing so, we engage with the work of artists and artistic collectives, in that way exploring the relation between art and society. We are honored tonight that we have well-known artists. Dan and Lia Perjovschi is our guest speaker. Dan is an artist. He uses drawing in a multitude of forms, such as wall drawings, drawing performances, activist drawings, art book projects, public space projects.
Everything I can.
Everything. Thank you. And Lia Perjovschi is a researcher and conceptual artist, working with the mind maps, timelines, and host education as a medium. Their work has been regularly exhibited in the most prestigious cultural institutions worldwide, such as Museum of Modern Art in New York, Tate Modern in London, one other museum in Eindhoven, and also as a part of the numerous group exhibitions such as Documenta, Venice Biennale, Sao Paulo, Jakarta, Istanbul Biennales, and many others. What fascinates me is that something which is very ordinary artistic technique, drawing, which usually is defined as producing images on surface, usually paper, is transformed into the, let's say, brilliant artistic language in addressing critically the situation we are living through locally and globally, and also most important questions. So, Lia, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you very much for coming, for giving us your time. I have 30 minutes, so I will make very short statements, but if something is not clear and you need some more explanation, please ask. Or if something is not well understood, I will clarify if you ask for this. So, yeah, I will show you my strategies to survive. And I just realized that we have almost 30 years during the communist time and 30 years in transition and capitalism and whatever we have now. This will be the first context, the communist one. And if you see the Black Sea next to, it's Romania, which looks like a black hole. Because for 10 years, 80s to 90s, we had really tough time. We were queuing for everything we need, food, from really basic eggs, bread, meat, milk, and so on, toilet paper. We started with 2 hours and we continue the whole family even overnight sometimes. 10 years was gradually becoming worse and worse. And the atmosphere made me fall asleep or feeling like I'm not alive. So I used to say that maybe I was in a kind of coma. Something was going on around, but yeah, not so clear what. I start with my body and my feelings, and then I was curious how the others were feeling in that context, in that environment. Here I tied my colleagues, some of my colleagues who want to participate in an experiment. I tied their hands and legs with other 4 people. So we start to be moved by accident, by somebody who, I don't know, had an incomfort or something. I was 29 years old when the revolution started. Of course, I was waiting for this event, so I was on the street. We were on the street. And then we didn't left the street because it was not so easy to transfer from communist society to something new, democratic. Of course, we were dreaming to be what was coming. But was not easy. Here are some fights on the street. And in this context, I created a doll with whom I try to accuse the others when I had the feeling that something is not right. So at the beginning of 19th, a lot of people accused the former dictator for everything. And I wanted to say, come on, no. We had also, all of us, our part of guiltiness in that story, because we were silent, we were obeying somehow, we were scared, and then the dictator become more and more powerful. Were the time when we got a studio in the Art of the Art Academy, but what to do in a studio in that activistic and problematic moment. So was a meeting point and a debating space with Romanians, with foreigners who were coming and visit us and so on. Also, we start to travel abroad to see exhibitions. It was quite difficult, but in a way we were so curious to get out to see the world that we had the chance to have exhibitions, and we start immediately after the revolution to travel. And in our travels, we discovered that 50 years were missing from our time, from our culture, for our education. Everything what we'll call contemporary art, we didn't know what means. Although we did something close to, but we didn't know the terms. From 50s to 90s, we were not. We didn't know what special theories, but not only what was happening. So we didn't. A lot. Of course, we spotted Biennale, Documenta, and from 1990 I started to collect materials, what we could buy and so on, books, catalogs and so on. And from 1990 I started to do a research on, to explain myself what is contemporary art and what's going on in the context around the art. The books, objects, multiples and so on, I organized them in an archive for contemporary art. So this was, if you want, my first institution. I created like a platform for what I was doing, but also to put in order everything I saw and I was reading, to articulate an institution to help me professional somehow. And I realized what was missing in my context. In order to have with whom to talk, I created some publications on the terms I discovered, like performance art, installation, photo, video, media, critical thinking, criticism, yeah, art management, art education, and so on. This will be on installation, performance, photo video media, like a dictionary of terms, criticism, how to organize an exhibition. And then, although I wanted to avoid looking back or looking in my context too deep, because I was full with this, I started to study a little bit to understand better and with a little bit distance. So this will be my a timeline on a Romanian context, more the time between the First and Second World War, and this will be the whole timeline, so 4 lines of A4 diagrams or mind maps. And I wanted to know who is running the mass media in Romania, because I wanted to understand who is behind the information, who create the new context. And this will be a newspaper on critical thinking, dictionary, because yeah, and some examples of timelines. This will be a general one, the first line, and the second one on art history. I spent it already in 2004, 14 years to build. The exhibitions in public space were looking like research room, low budget because I didn't have money. We had a lot of workshops and so on. We were very enthusiastic, and yeah, we tried to recuperate, like here in a place in one of the biggest city in Romania. We tried to recuperate local intellectuals, people who were making a difference in that times, have courage to say loud what they were thinking and what were the problems. In 1999, in 2000, we had a live program on Romanian television. We were moderators of this program for 3 hours each Saturday. So everything I was collecting for the archive and trying to articulate in text and publications were going national. My exhibitions will look like that, a kind of detective situation with exhibits. People discover things, works, and they could read labels, or they could figure out what was there. In 2001, this will be the Parliament Palace, the building built by Ceausescu, the former dictator, for him to show how important he was. He didn't have the chance to be there, but we had the chance to pay since then this building, which is super huge and super expensive to maintain. Because in that time, the Prime Minister, the guy in the left, was acting like former dictator Ceausescu in the right. He liked to hunt. He wanted to use us, the art, for a good image in West. So he wanted to establish the Contemporary Art Museum there, in that huge building. We oppose, we boycott this Museum of Contemporary Art because it's the art should not be a visit card for power. Being a little bit too critical, we lost the studio, but in Bucharest, but one door closed and the other one is opening, although hurts. And we moved back in our hometown in Sibiu, where it's a kind of studio, storage space, the archive, and the Knowledge Museum, my latest project. The archive is presented like that in public space. I mentioned the Knowledge Museum, my latest project, which I want to be interdisciplinary. I really want to build this museum, which should have 7 departments, like body, earth, universe, knowledge, in general, culture, science, and I think there are 7. And I'm thinking what kind of shape a knowledge museum should have, and maybe a molecule structure or a vertebra, maybe, because the knowledge is complex, and it's, even the scientific knowledge is instable. Then cultural one, it's really flexible. Because this museum, this project, I want, because I want to put the accent on education somehow, but not to educate from above somehow, but more to coach. And my idea is to offer the viewer some elements, and doesn't matter how educated will be the viewer, but to be capable of understanding at least the complexity of everything. So I started with this 10 worst problems to focus a little bit. And I combine my interdisciplinary research, objects I bought over time from museum stores, and images from internet, from Facebook, and so on. Not only, also reviews, newspapers, and so on. Like Nicolas Bourriot, I totally agree with him. There is a lot of production, so maybe I don't need to produce more, but maybe recycle what is produced. That's why taking images and so on, objects. It's time to rethink. This is a text from Facebook, but it's working perfect for me. And of course, global warming, it's a big issue for us all. To reduce, recycle, it's a have to. This will be my interdisciplinary research, my diagrams, mind maps when appear some images. In 1999, I discovered that I can have information on only one sheet of paper. So I always like it to have a concentration, shortcut, resume, something like that, not too much, a selection in everything. Some examples of objects I found in museum stores. So it's a line from Pompidou Center, a line for school kids in shape of a gun. And then in Pristina I find this water bottle in shape of a grenade in front of a church. Yeah, with holy water from Mecca. Of course, it's a response to the gun line. This is from South Korea. And another text which I like very much, which is very true. At least in Romania, where everybody start to talk, even if they don't have what. My knowledge museum I present like that, a kind of model in museums, like the model of an architect, let's say, for this knowledge museum. Depending on the space I have, I spread in many spaces, in one space, on one table, on one wall. This will be a recent research on, I was invited in Ljubljana for this new space they opened. And they commissioned me to create some diagrams with new issues from the time of COVID and till they open officially. This will be a diagram I made for them, a mind map, yeah, I call mind maps when I use images. At home, we still don't have interesting galleries, clean and so on, so I had the chance to library in Sibiu, where I created my knowledge project. It's a reading room. And all the time I have to reinvent myself, especially after COVID. I had only myself, so I had to reread my works or try to find other solutions to move on, because the situation really was changing after COVID. A lot of unsureness, a lot of, in a way, we had the feeling like artists that we are not necessary. Not only that the officials were telling us this, but also, at least I felt this. And I remember that I was reading a book on creativity. And there were two interesting ideas, which I liked it. If you are stuck, think at colors, because this will spark some ideas in your brain. So, and the second one was look at kids' drawings. See how free they are and how they behave in front of a sheet of paper, without emotions, without scare and so on. And I start to think at colors. I did an exhibition on this idea, actually deconstructing painting using colors and all the other elements what you use in an exhibition. But again, the context don't let us to use only the nice colors. This was Rwanda, Syria, a child which look at us from Syria. And then this monster, small person, really mean, not crazy. And his utopia, which give us dystopia. I'm amazed by the courage of the Ukrainians. I don't know what I will do. I think I will run and not look back. And since some years, I'm looking at kids' drawings, but also their faces. And I don't know why they are so bad treated. And after Holocaust, humanity, it's going in the same direction. It's incredible. Another text from Facebook. And the places with hunger. And women's are also very bad treated, almost everywhere. And corruption. You know, in front of an earthquake, we cannot comment too much. But when we see this, and we know it's corruption behind. And this child who stayed 100 days, I don't know, he's looking at us, understanding something, maybe. But also I feel that he's accusing us for letting things happening like that. This will be my presentation. Now I like more to answer because I never know what you expect to find, what to offer you to be efficient somehow.
Okay, please welcome your questions. Lia?
If not, we will be back. After Dan will talk also.
What happened with the Museum of Contemporary Art? Is it still at the main building?
Yeah, it's there, it's fine. Pretend to be a kind of club, a kind of alternative
divide
space.
the building into many different purposes, like shopping mall, cinema, contemporary museum. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Before it was all inclusive about communism, and now it's all inclusive about capitalism.
yeah. If you go there like tourist, okay, no criticism, you are a viewer, you will be disappointed because you will not have any information, clear information, catalogs about the context and so on.
Yeah, one of the best exhibitions I've seen is like this Santiago Sierra show there.
Yeah.
Because you don't care.
Huh?
You don't care.
About the context.
No.
Yeah.
Santiago Serra is a very provocative artist, but there was like conformity. He was like pretending, because of the context, that he's non-conformist and so on. From my point of view, any kind of gesture, it's ruined because the building is too big and too powerful, and so it's confiscating, it's taking any discourse from my point of view.
And how about artists who work with communities or with the audience in the last years?
Yeah, we have a lot. We have many, because we have a lot of problems. So it's not that necessarily they solve these problems, but they make mass media be aware, and then some general public for all kind of issues, you know. Everything what is difficult, from animals on the street, abandoned or traumatized or whatever, to abandoned kids, for women, from domestic violence and so on. Politics, not only social issues.
How is the art scene in the city you live in? The city?
There it's a little bit a touristic town, so you need to find solutions.
Is there a gallery or museum?
We have museum. It's one of the first, it's the first museum there, because once upon a time was the residency of the governor from Transylvania, Dracula territory.
Not him. Not him.
No. Brukenthal,
Classic.
governor, he established a collection, an important one, a big one, and a museum. But it's classic stuff.
They don't produce contemporary art. Let's
Contemporary art, some of us. We don't have a good gallery.
More like a theater city.
Theater. Yeah, I saw that.
I would like to ask you about the education. You said while communism, it was bad time for you as young people to be educated. What is the situation now being in Europe, so several years? Is there any difference? Are you satisfied? That's the reason why you start doing
Education, it's a problematic issue. Was a kind of abandoned territory from 1990. Teachers, I don't know, didn't have enough money. The salary was quite modest, and they lost the respect. And then from here, they become weaker and weaker. Since some years, the salary is bigger now, but the schools are not up to date with technology and so on. Only now starts to the things to change, because we have this, we can access some monies if they apply, which not so many people manage to find ways to apply for help from Europe. Europe is another issue. I mean, without being in Europe, integrated in European Union, we will be really having troubles now. Maybe Putin will be in Romania without any problem. In a way, temperate the corruption, abuse of all kind. There are so many problems that it's difficult for me to mention how they help, but they help. Without them and NATO will be terrible. And we had some moments of dramatic limit from time to time. Almost from 3-4 years, something, it's happening. Yeah.
I'm Romanian, so but we are going to speak English now for the sake of audience. Thank you for this delightful and rich conference. This first time we met each other, but I was really surprised, not to say amazed, by the, let's say, synthetical character of your presentation and by the approach to to Romanian realities that I know quite well, although I've been living abroad for almost 20 years. What I want to add to my short speech now, it's that we are in many ways very similar. Despite of the fact that North Macedonia is just a candidate country, we are in numerous dimensions Balkan countries, struggling for
storage space, the archive, and the Knowledge Museum, my latest project. The archive is presented like that in public space. I mentioned the Knowledge Museum, my latest project, which I want to be interdisciplinary. I really want to build this museum, which should have 7 departments, like body, earth, universe, knowledge, in general, culture, science, and I think there are 7. And I'm thinking what kind of shape a knowledge museum should have, and maybe a molecule structure or a vertebra, maybe, because the knowledge is complex and it's, even the scientific knowledge is instable. Then cultural one, it's really flexible. Because this museum, this project, I want, because I want to put the accent on education somehow, but not to educate from above somehow, but more to coach. And my idea is to offer the viewer some elements, and doesn't matter how educated will be the viewer, but to be capable of understanding at least the complexity of everything. So I started with this 10 worst problems to focus a little bit. And I combine my interdisciplinary research, objects I bought over time from museum stores, and images from internet, from Facebook, and so on. Not only, also reviews, newspapers, and so on. Like Nicolas Bourriot, I totally agree with him. There is a lot of production, so maybe I don't need to produce more, but maybe recycle what is produced. That's why taking images and so on, objects. It's time to rethink. This is a text from Facebook, but it's working perfect for me. And of course, global warming, it's a big issue for us all. To reduce, recycle, it's a have to. This will be my interdisciplinary research, my diagrams, mind maps when appear some images. In 1999, I discovered that I can have information on only one sheet of paper. So I always like it to have a concentration, shortcut, resume, something like that, not too much, a selection in everything. Some examples of objects I found in museum stores. So it's a line from Pompidou Center, you know, a line for school kids in shape of a gun. And then in Pristina I find this water bottle in shape of a grenade in front of a church. Yeah, with holy water from Mecca. Of course, it's a response to the gun line. This is from South Korea. And another text which I like very much, which is very true. At least in Romania, where everybody start to talk, even if they don't have what. My knowledge museum I present like that, a kind of model in museums, like the model of an architect, let's say, for this knowledge museum. Depending on the space I have, I spread in many spaces, in one space, on one table, on one wall. This will be a recent research on, I was invited in Ljubljana for this new space they opened. And they commissioned me to create some diagrams with new issues from the time of COVID and till they open officially. This will be a diagram I made for them, a mind map, I call mind maps when I use images. I have to reinvent myself, especially after COVID. I had only myself, so I had to reread my works or try to find other solutions to move on, because the situation really was changing after COVID. A lot of unsureness, a lot of, in a way, we had the feeling like artists that we are not necessary. Not only that the officials were telling us this, but also, at least I felt this. And I remember that I was reading a book on creativity. And there were two interesting ideas, which I liked it. If you are stuck, think at colors, because this will spark some ideas in your brain. So, and the second one was look at kids' drawings. See how free they are and how they behave in front of a sheet of paper, without emotions, without scare and so on. And I start to think of colors. I did an exhibition on this idea, actually deconstructing painting using colors and all the other elements what you use in an exhibition. But again, the context don't let us to use only the nice colors. This was Rwanda, Syria, a child which looked at us from Syria, and then this monster, small person, really mean, not crazy. And his utopia, the possibility to change, and I believe in good times, but without our involvement, this will happen maybe too slow.
We are like not typical artists. We don't smoke, and we like Americans. So watch out. And our communist is not like yours. So take care about this. Whatever we present, it's our own experience. It's not in general. It's not a general theory about the society and struggle and stuff. And we don't know much about the Contemporary Museum because when they established, we never stepped foot on it. And it's a statement. We don't work with these guys, we don't go there. Yeah, why? Because we can. So, if Lia presented you more about this kind of past and the motivation we have coming from a dictatorship, and the resilience and the resistance and the fight we have to put up in order to survive those circumstances, I will speak a little bit more about the actual circumstances of the free society we're living now. So this is a resume of the last years. This is the 2020 and 2021, when humanity have to keep a distance like 1.50 meters in between us, right? This was the last 3 years atmosphere. And now the humanity is broke, and the letter N become the Z of Mr. Putin. And then, unfortunately, I think the peace will come only through war. So in my art, I try to make a resume and to make a visual image of what we are living. And this was shown as one of the first gestures of the last Documenta, one of the most important exhibitions on this planet last summer. So before Documenta opened, these anti-war drawings were shown in Kassel in Germany on this museum. And then I made this piece for the big show, using these, non-spaces, which are the columns. Like all my practice as an artist is to use the spaces which are kind of left over. And this was like, because the museum, the classical Western museum, was transformed by these guys from Global South into a school. So the column became like a blackboard from the school, and the topic, a resume of this Documenta was in each column. So, well, some huge statement like ability to sustain, sustainability, but also taking care of all kind of questions. The fashionable term called decolonization. So what is China doing to Hong Kong now? It's pushing the UK empire out. So they are the good guys, right? I'm joking. And then what do we have in common, these countries, beside the music at Eurovision? What's our common project? Right? By the way, if you look at the Eurovision context with Russia and Israel and even Australia, then Europe become interesting. So I do conceptual art, although it looks like that. But I do it with humor, about complicated spaces. We all agree to be filmed when we take out the money, so they know when, how much, and maybe they know exactly for what. And I also use my art or my practice to navigate within contemporary art topics, but also social, and also, you know, humankind, utopia. And I'm addressing directly, so how you put that toilet paper, like that? So what is left or right? Extremist. Good. So we came out through what Lia presented to you, through the bravery of the Romanian people who took to the streets 33 years ago, and in the process to bring down a dictatorship, 1,000 of them died. So every time I'm showing and I'm here with you, I will remember that for me to be present here, 1,000 of my countrymen have to die. And then we have this, like Lia showed to you, like all these kind of democratic advancements in my country after the revolution was obtained in the streets fighting. And what I've been learning in the Romanian school, in High School of Art and Academy of Art, was not good enough to face the reality of those times. It was good when Romania was frozen, so in communism nothing happened. You didn't have future, you had just the present. But it was not good when context changed and dynamism was there, and it was the revolution, it was the changing time. So I joined a newspaper, a weekly magazine, one of the first, maybe the first independent weekly, political in my country. The 22 comes from the 22 of December, the date of the Romanian Revolution. And I published drawings, so it was my 16-page gallery. And I published this drawing, and the text around, which were political, addressing real situation, real struggle, modified the drawing idea. And the drawing became more simplified until essence, you know. So this is because we have the feeling that everything we vote in the last 30 years was a minus. It was always we have to pick the less worst from the possibility. And as an artist, because this was my job, and I'm still publishing drawings in those weekly magazines 33 years later, I have a steady job, I'm insured, I will have a pension, because I have a steady job. And as what I did as an artist, like this piece, called Anthropotech, a wall of drawing, and I need 3 years to complete this, my masterpiece, which looks like that. So, I was active in a newspaper because political change, blah, blah, blah. And in artistical world, I tried to do what I learned in school, like the, artwork, what an art means, what beautiful, interesting. But at Romania at the time, in 1993, there were no institution able to transport this work outside the country. Nobody was able to pay insurance, nobody was able to make a crate. And we've not been famous enough to be invited and paid in full. So I had to decide, that the decision took some years, like to forget the hardware, to forget the objects, and use only the software, the drawing in itself. So I moved the drawing from the object directly to the wall of the institution who invited me. That's the Iraqi invasion first. So I started drawing walls and windows, creating this kind of, temporary display, or how I call them, visual editorials. And my subjects are social and political, and I'm working as a journalist, kind of, like I take my subjects from the media, and I just visualize them on a wall. So I work with the subject of the moment, generally the planet, then whatever happens in that country, that city, that museum, with that director, with that guy who guard the museum. So that's the subject on the wall. And I don't know from the beginning what I will draw. So this is the only condition I put to anybody who invite me. Don't ask me a project. I just come and I draw. So they have to trust me. So it's a question of trust. Well, a lot. But also not so big, prominent spaces. This is in Station in Kosovo. And this is a vaccination center in my country. Because I try to make people to get vaccinated. Yeah. So my projects are sometimes in very, very big spaces. I got this trust. I can draw whatever I like, so it's a very freestyle. But then the price for this freestyle and this kind of freedom to express is this. At the end of the project goes. Right? So my art is painted over or washed out. So I keep drawing 30 years, they keep erasing me. Yeah, so then I have to use with it, well, this was not my plan necessarily. I was just happy to draw and to express. But then I have to incorporate in my practice the destruction process. So this is Venice Biennale in the Romanian Pavilion many years ago. And the people step on the drawing and consume it. This is another way to disappear. This is Association Non-Profit Space in Cape Town. And at the end of the show, boom, they bring kids in. Amazing. I never crossed my mind that my drawing can look like a coloring book, no? And these guys, they know with color. Yeah, so this is the show. That's the end of the show. So what's left? So what's left is the notebook, because for every show I draw, my test ground or my mobile studio, it's a notebook where I fix the ideas. And the ideas can be very simple as touristic like this. This is a view from the hotel room here. Or this is the lunch we had yesterday. Salad bar, center town. But it can be more sophisticated. What comes after the struggle? The Museum of Struggle, of course. So, what's next? So more conceptual, more political. So I have a lot of these notebooks because I sell them only for the institution who invite me. If they want to buy, the show is gone, the spectacle is gone, but the seeds are in the notebook, so they can have the seeds. And if they don't, I put them in my own archive for the future researcher. So hundreds of these notebooks are unsold and in my archive. Well, in 2005, I was invited to the Istanbul Biennale. I got this kind of space, very rough. I do the project. It was very welcome, radical, blah, blah. And now this is a cozy boutique. This is one of the extraordinary institutions in the world called Generali Foundation in Vienna. Now it's Lidl. This is the Romanian Tiananmen, or one of the most extraordinary square in the middle of Bucharest called the University Square. So it's the ground zero of the Romanian democracy. Every struggle and protest started from there. Well, that's kind of so the body of the women and the body of the men who changed history in my country and sacrificed themselves, they are advertising to it. And this is the world we live now, right? Berlin Wall gone, but many other walls are up in between countries. Between rich and poor, So, what can you do in that kind of world with walls and this kind of country where in order to show your patriotism you have to kneel in front of the men? So she's a minister. She was. So she had to kneel. Yeah, so, and what about this heritage we have, the historical one we have presented to you, the Sauron, the Mordor, that's still there, fine, no? It was an axe or a knife in the spine of the city of Bucharest, and the hole is still there, and the fence is still around. So in 33 years, we were not able to trash the fence around the symbol of the power. So this is not a public park, it's their park. All the Western band we dream about, they come and play now, and they have this fabulous background. And when you think that the things could not go any worse, well, the twin sister came to complete the landscape. And remember, in that building is the contemporary art museum. In the island surrounding by a fence. So I thought my part, as my citizen part, should be more prominent. And just forget about painting and studio and go. Well, I can't go, but my drawings can. So I do participate and become more engaged in the social movement in my country, but through my drawings, which can be copyleft, downloaded, and taken by people in their struggle. I don't know them. Well, I know these guys because I'm creating t-shirts for them. It's a couple of women, fantastic women who build a hospital with people contribute, so crowdfunding, and they build this with half price that the Romanian state are trying to build a hospital that 33 years and they did not succeed yet. Yeah, so I'm producing, and it's called the horizontal newspaper, so I treat it as a gazette, so with subjects of the day. So I choose something you understand, so the World War III was here already. And that's Bucharest arrest everybody, because the corruption is so good. So I'm doing some tough subjects on the wall, see? Osman Kavala, everybody forgot. In Turkey, these are the list of poets in jail in Turkey right now. And this is the new virus. And the war criminal. And I also use this as collaborative platform with some of the, gender equality groups or poetry festival or whatever. And there's what an interesting phenomenon which I did not imagine, but it's just happening is this, is that people are selecting the drawings, so they make selfies, so they are curating me, and then they place these images on the largest wall on the planet, the Facebook wall. Yeah. And they become really creative, look. As the romanticists fall. And that's the last edition of this newspaper article was this Romanian term for together. And that's one of the terms because it was dedicated with like a joint project with Documenta 15 in Kassel. So I did an expansion of this horizontal newspaper in Kassel in Germany. So drawings from the wall in Sibiu you can find there. Well, various about nature, about war, about whatever happened, about the art world, about the controversy in the art world. So this was a project at the train station, so mainly people coming from Germany will find this as the first work in Documenta, so it was kind of a prologue. 100 days, 100 drawings about a very complicated story, because this exhibition was the view of the global south about the planet, and that's a different view or vision than we think we have about life and politics and economy on the world. And in order to understand what's going, you are vulgarizing and stereotyping other culture. So we don't know very much about it. And we can easily misunderstand us, or we can stand together, we can have a different approach, we can have discussion. So this was basically what was happening in Germany last summer, a big discussion about what's going on from various points of view, some very conflictual. But it was an exhibition dedicated to communality, to eat together, to sing together, to think, to share. This is a group of artists called Nyasan Collective from Vietnam. I was with them in a mini group inside the big exhibition, and what they did, I like it very much, it's very poetical. They went 6 months in advance and put seeds in one place in Kassel, and then the Vietnamese community in that city took care about the seeds, so they grew up in a garden. So when the artists came for the exhibition, for the opening, the garden was already there, and then they cook with the things grew in this garden the next 100 days, and now they went back, but the garden is still there because the city of Kassel want to have it, and the Vietnamese community in that city, in Kassel, take care about it. So 1 year after document. And this is a piece about the other group I was in, the mini group called the Nest Collective from Nigeria. And this is what you see, it's a building made out of second-hand clothes Germany sent to Nigeria. And they bring them back, it's called Return to Sender. And they create a space inside to debate this, how rich nations are sending their garbage out to the poor nation. And this was a collective project inside the big project. We all put money from our production budget to create a printing facility who prints stuff for us during the 100 days. And now this printing thing offset is moved to Barcelona, and it's continuing the project. So the idea for an exhibition who spend a lot of money, not to spend all the money in that place and then you go home, but somehow have some seeds, and from that seeds to grow some other projects. Yeah, so you have this idea that you can change the world. So the topic of that show was about talking and differences, and sometimes we cannot talk, or it's difficult to talk. So this is another show about talk. I participated in 2001. It was called Small Talk. It was in this museum, and in 2001 the reality was very different than now, because East lost. It was a complicated time, as I understand. So my project was to have a fax machine, if you remember what that was, or is, installed here in one, and I sent faxes to this museum. And then after the opening, also during the show. And I just realized, talking with Lia yesterday, that I don't have these faxes. I don't know what I did with them. I'm just very frustrated because I think the drawings were pretty good. Anyways, so I'm leaving you with this question that I placed to the Small Talk exhibition in 2001 here in Skopje. If you think that art can really change something, or thank you very much. Now you can address other question to me and to Lia again.
So please roll again with your question.
Maybe we can have some light. result of my changing the... No, yeah, I can, and I did, and we did in Romania a lot. Like really, I will stand in front of any politician in my country and I said, I did this. What did you do? Yes, I can. Do you have any problems here in the country?
I want to add something like that. Yeah, that question doesn't
We need evidence. We need evidence about this.
Invite me and I tell you.
No, I think that question kind of repeats in the last 20 years in many occasions, like these talks in museums or general audience and in media. But I think, yeah, as always, art's primary function was to change things through influence in people. So the good artist is the one who knows the process, how to change the things, and yeah, maybe there are few artists who know how to change the world with art.
You know, sometimes we are speaking and we say we are not so enthusiastic as 30 years ago, you know, because when you cross a major historical change and you come from like a jail to freedom, then you think everything is possible. So anything can be solved, and you know you can have an extraordinary life on this planet. And then, you know, life comes, boom, 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 boom. So now we are not so naive, but we think we can change people one by one. So it's a workshop tomorrow. So 15 tomorrow. Okay. That's our goal. No, I'm not joking, but no, I think we did what we could, and this is what, like our statement, do whatever you can with what you have.
In my case, I'm dreaming to have the chance to tell the politicians that I want them to behave like the Western politicians,
Not all of
a
them.
little bit understanding that they are, how you call, professional in administration, but nothing more. They are not kings.
And even the kings are not
This
kings.
I would like very much to be able to tell them and in a way repeat till they got it.
They got it, but they don't like it.
No, I mean, you know, how you go more towards east, the things are worse and worse, and we see. So I hope that I will have the chance to underline this. But we don't want to look arrogant or whatever. But being involved, sacrificing a lot. We don't have kids to don't be
Which was
forced
a
to
conscious decision.
obey in a way to manage our life. I show it you the Prime Minister who established a museum of contemporary art in that ugly building. In a way, I hate him so much that that I was using any moment when I met an official from Europe to tell them, please don't help this guy to continue. He's corrupt, and I don't want to be represented by this one and so on. And somehow he lost the power, not only because of me. No, not only because of me. But I had really moments when I met a lot of people, influential people from the European Parliament or from Holland or Germany or France. And somehow, of course, one voice here and there, you make a statement and they have to take care. I mean, who are Europeans officials which are coming in East to check different things and to establish different rules? also people working in administration, but they need us first to make a list with what we want, to make a list with people who are difficult and dangerous in our context, and then somehow they can tell further and we can solve problems.
So they pull out the law, but it was the first attempt to control what they cannot. So the provenance of money to support your independent activity.
But tragedy is that without them, Romanian education will look even worse than it's looking now.
So it was a question
because
here
they
of-
were
yeah.
involved and supporting alternative education, 3 days school, 1 week, different type of education, or all kind of programs, who were intervening really almost everywhere in the country,
So
even in villages.
Romania is famous to have this everything formally, but the content is missing. So if you take a paper and you look, it's a functional democracy perfect. But the way how it functions, it's very scary. And what Lia said, it was this question about education. Of course, it's a very big difference towards the dictatorship time, because at the time you could not travel, you could not go, there was no other choice. Now you can go, which young people did. They skip, they go, and nobody, So you have, I'll tell you, you even can move from one school to another. In those times when we studied, you could not move from sculpture to painting. Which is, anyway, so coming back, of course we are frustrated at the level of education we have today, because it's absolutely paradoxical. You have all the freedom, you have all the access to any information. We didn't have books, we could not travel, we didn't fucking know what installation means. And now these guys, they are completely bored, no? They seems like not, so
But not
it's,
only
it's
education.
it's the guilt of the system and the people who make that system.
Not only education, it's a problem. Health, it's also another difficult issue. No new hospital was built. They were building hundreds of churches.
Malls and football stadiums.
Yeah, and but
No library, no army.
the old hospitals degrade in a way. Even the doctors, in a way, are ruined in this kind of hospitals.
So of course,
Also corruption
this kind of
and so on.
situation when people become nostalgic if they got old, so they refer to the previous society as more stable. It doesn't matter if it was a pressure, you didn't have the goods, but it was stable. And now nothing is stable, because tomorrow the inflation can be triple and the bill and electricity double and stuff like that. So it's completely unsure and people hate it. So in a certain sense, the new society betrayed the people, because we made a revolution because it was cold in the house and we didn't have food. And now it's cold in the house and you don't have money to buy the food. So it's like, what's going on, So, and I'm super frustrated.
But we have a lot of millionaires in Europe, not Romanian currency.
One thing who calm us down is that every guy who has this enormous power and they look like pharaohs forever, they are gone. Some in jail, some forever. So it's like fantastic. So we have all these Berlusconi kind of guys that in 5 years they disappear, So it's still like a chance to say, hey, Mr. Superman, watch out, because you may gone in like 10 years or something.
Now, another problem we have, and it's important, it's the special pensions.
There are some people which have privilege, so they have double pension or whatever. We are advocating for that in the visual matter on the social media, so we keep this topic on. And I think sometimes we as artists, we have a different view, and sometimes it's an unusual view on this kind of topic. If you take on the media, probably in your media, to one subject, they will be treated the same way all over and over, and you have the chance to come with a different angle. Maybe people understand better, So yeah, I don't know if I will able to make the government to cut this, but at least I'm able to keep the story in the society. And I
But
cannot.
You know, this discussion is recorded, and maybe they find out from internet.
That the Romanians in Skopje betray their country, speaking it worse and bad, and which is cool. Yeah.
No,
Well,
we say this also at home, but
I mean, you know, we come from a revolutionary time, so we also understand art as a statement. And you saw my drawings, and you saw Lia's drawings. They are more close to manifesto than to beautifulness, you know, something. Although we do not exclude that. We don't exclude aesthetics necessarily, but ethics are more close to us. So we
and
try,
social issues.
and if our mission in our country right now is to show to any artist, any creative somebody, that there is another way to live than what they tell you to do. You have to obey this, you are at the museum, you have to have a gallery, you know. All of that have to, you don't have to. Because you can find a different way. And I think it's a very important mission, and we can do it because we don't have kids, because we don't smoke, because we don't have a car, because, you know, because we don't live in the capital, we went in a little town where you can walk, cheaper price, you know. So I think we try to say this, and this is also a change in us.
Unfortunately, I realized only now when it's this debate with the special pensions, that actually they continue like during the communist time to reward the people at the top in law, in
power, like
power, yeah, in
military,
general and so on, to
police.
keep the status quo, to help them to continue how they want and so on. Yeah, but we cannot walk like that anymore.
So
It's general.
one
somehow.
reason for me to do this drawing in this vaccination center was that when they made the list of the essential people to be vaccinated in our country, on that paper, the artists we didn't make the cut. We were not on the list, you know, so we were expandable. Our travel, so it is an effort, and that means money, and this has to be respected. And I think maybe our role is this. To constantly, you know, say, yeah, this matter, this is important.
So good luck in Europe, being in Europe.